We live?
I believe so.
Let's see here. But you better check the phone numbers. One sec for if you know. 1 sec, y'all. We finna check to see if we live.
Which channel?
Dallas in class. It's all good.
Yeah.
Cool, we good?
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Oh yeah, we see people on the, some people watching now too. All right, shalom. First and foremost, we want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakakodash. We would like to give double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone at Ruwell.
Right.
Peace and blessings and much salutation to you elect Akim across the four winds of this earth, kicking this word in sincerity and in truth. All right, shalom to you all on the comment boards. Okay, we're here another day prophesying, and the priest Qadar and myself are just having a conversation on a few things. And this lesson here is going to be more so a response to the video Elder Yashuam did a few days ago, going into how you, in order to grow in the spirit, you need to have a contrite spirit.
That's right.
Okay, and as you see the title of this lesson, all right, loosely paraphrasing, it goes into like the perfect sacrifice has to be seasoned with salt.
That's right.
All right, because if you was to watch the lesson that Yashuama did, he went into that. All right, going into being a contrite, having a contrite spirit, meaning when you go into that word contrite, it means to be broken. All right, and it also means to be in a state of penitentiveness. Okay, because the thing about it is, once you're involved in this truth, your life will drastically change.
Right.
Okay, you really experience, all right, as the scriptures say, with much knowledge comes much sorrow.
Right.
All right, and the more knowledge that you receive through the spirit of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, you really see the world for what it truly is. All right, and it makes you reflect back on yourself on things that you might have done before you came into the truth. All right, certain things that you might have been into. All right, and the certain things you understand why the Lord might be judging you in certain situations.
That's right.
And ultimately, it's just us getting put through the fire. All right, which again, what do you put through the fire in the ancient world? You would place the sacrifice in the ancient world. Like Yahushua represents the unblemished lamb that was sacrificed for us.
That's right.
We still got to make ourselves living sacrifices, as the scriptures say. Matter of fact, I actually want to start off in Romans before we pull that up in Mark the 9th chapter. All right, because just doing some reading on a few things last night, and I read a scripture in Mark the 9th chapter. Really, one of the brothers posted on the comment board to Yashuam's video going into that contrite spirit, and it really blew my mind when it settled. Because there's certain times you'll be reflecting on certain things that you might be going through. Certain times you'll say, "Why, Lord?" When you complain to the Lord and you try to understand why you're going through particular things.
Yep.
But the thing about it is, each and every last one of us have certain hells that we have to deal with in order for us to grow.
That's right.
All right, and your hell might be different than another brother's hell, man. But that fire, the Lord has a particular fire that's set up for you to go through.
That's right.
Okay, so got this in Romans. Oh, you got a precept too?
No, I was just holding what you needed me to hold.
Okay. I'm gonna pull this up in Romans real quick, and then we can pull that out. And this lesson's not gonna be long, by the way, y'all. But it was on our spirit to go into this really quick before we start making moves for the day. Okay. This is the book of Romans, chapter 12, verse 1.
Mm-hmm.
It says, "I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of the Most High, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice,
That's right.
holy, acceptable unto the Most High, which is your reasonable service." Okay, so being that sacrifice, we're gonna have to get put through the fire.
That's right.
All right, and one of the other necessities that's needed for a sacrifice is that salt, man.
That's right.
All right, because hey, just like you like seasoning on your food, the Heavenly Father likes His sacrifices to be seasoned.
Yeah.
All right, you got anything you want to say?
Yeah. I was just thinking, just look at just common things like the brother said. Your reaction to when your meat is unseasoned. You go to a restaurant, or you go to you go to like a gathering. You know what I'm saying? And they got lawful meat there. You're like, man, who in the hell grilled this chicken?
Right.
Who in the hell grilled this lamb?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Even though call all Yabashim Yashah, the lamb doesn't need much, but a little olive oil and a pinch of salt.
Right.
Like that. You know what I'm saying? But like the brother's going into, who in the hell wants a piece of meat that's unsavory?
Yeah.
Basically, it's really no love shown.
Right.
So that's what the Most High wants.
Exactly.
Exactly. You want that. You want to be worthy of even offering up that sacrifice. You don't want no whack ass sacrifice being offered up onto you.
Exactly.
So why would you do that to the Most High? Right?
Real talk. Hey, look at Cain's sacrifice.
Oh man.
That was an example of a whack ass, unsavory sacrifice because the Lord required, a sacrificial animal.
Yeah.
And then, best believe, Abel put some seasoning on it.
Yeah.
Because once we go into it, and we're going to get it here in a little bit, salt is required for a sacrifice, man.
That's right.
All right, so what did Cain offer? The fruit of the land.
Yeah.
And that's why the Lord chose Abel's sacrifice more worthy than Cain's.
Yeah.
And what was Cain willing to do? He was willing to cut off the line of righteousness just because the Lord didn't accept his whack-ass sacrifice, man.
Yeah.
There wasn't no love into that, man.
That's right.
All right, when you offer up an animal, man, you're supposed to offer up the choice of that animal.
That's right.
Unblemished, all right? The choice of it, man, and that's what Abel did. All right, Cain just picked up some fruit or whatever it was and gave it to the Lord, and that was unacceptable, man.
And that's like it. That's why the Lord rocked with Abraham.
That's right.
He was willing to sacrifice Isaac.
Beautiful point. Which was a choice out of the choice, because that was his only begotten son.
That's right. That's right.
You got that in Mark?
Come, show you, brother.
Come.
This is Mark, chapter 9, starting at verse 47. And if thine eye offend thee, pluck it out.
And you find this very spiritual when you read this, man. All right, because yes, we are likened to sacrifices.
That's right.
All right, but also too, when a sacrifice gets presented before the priest, all right, remember the priest has to analyze the sacrifice and make sure that it's unblemished, and he uses his rod or his staff to do that.
That's right.
All right, and once he sees that animal is unblemished, he puts that rod in a certain color, all right, a certain like paint material, and he dabs that lamb or marks that lamb that's worthy to be sacrificed. Okay, now put that in the mind state of us being that unblemished sacrifice. So in order to be that sacrifice, what does he say right here? He said, if thine eye offend thee, pluck it out, right?
That's right.
Go ahead.
It is better for thee to enter into the kingdom of the Most High with one eye than having two eyes be cast out into hell fire.
Now, when you go into fire, right? But the thing about it is, once you go into particular sacrifices and once you look at the lambs had to be unblemished back then.
That's right.
Right? So if a lamb came up to the altar that had one eye missing or three legs or whatever, it wasn't worthy to be sacrificed, man. And you can read about that in the book of Malachi, how those priests were being lax back then, and they were allowing whack sacrifices to come in.
Right.
Now the Heavenly Father is looking for just a sacrifice being of a contrite spirit.
That's right.
He's not looking on your outward man to be perfect and unblemished.
That's right.
All right? Hey, that's why Yahushua went into pretty much no God being found in their mouths.
That's right.
Inwardly. That's why Yahushua said pretty much to the wicked scribes and Pharisees, he says, outwardly you appear to be this figure of godliness, but inward you're full of dead man's bones.
Yep.
All right, so now the Lord is pretty much requiring of this particular sacrifice. If your right eye offends thee, pluck it out. If your hand offends thee, pluck it out. Going into cutting certain things off. And you will be more honorable going into being sacrificed, all right, being missing something, which is, again, figuratively speaking, than going in and allowing that right hand that offends you or that right eye to offend you to throw you into the nuclear fire, which is that ultimate sacrifice. If that made sense. But we're going to keep reading to verify this point. Okay?
Ready, brother?
Yeah, come.
Okay.
Because again, mind you, the previous verse, the brother read how if your right eye offends you, pluck it out. But look what Yahushua goes into right afterwards.
That's right. This is back in Mark chapter 9, verse 48. Where their worm dieth not, and the fire is not quenched.
Go ahead.
Verse 49. For everyone shall be salted with fire, and every sacrifice shall be salted with salt.
Read that again and stop after sacrifice of salted with fire.
Come. For everyone shall be salted with fire.
So he's saying everyone shall be salted with fire. All right? And when you go into the law, matter of fact, well, I got this in Leviticus and we can jump back to that.
Okay.
Because when you go into the law of sacrifice, all right, that animal, that oblation, that offering had to be seasoned with salt.
That's right.
Okay? So I'm going to read this here in Leviticus 2 and 13. And it reads, "In every oblation of thy meat offering shalt thou season with salt. Neither shall they suffer the salt of the covenant of thy God to be lacking from the meat offering." So when you offered up a sacrifice, you had to put a sufficient amount of salt on that sacrifice in order for it to be accepted by the Heavenly Father.
That's right.
Because he said what? The salt can't be lacking.
That's right.
All right. And what did King David say? Hold on one second, brother, before we continue. I'm going to read this here in the book of Psalms. This is the book of Psalms, chapter 23, verse 1. It says, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. When you go into that word want goes into the word lack. All right. So David says, I shall not lack. Right. All right. And David understood that he was a sacrifice too, man. Right. Just like we're all sacrifices. David understood that he was a sacrifice. So one of the things that David said he wasn't gonna lack. Well, you can go into an abundance of things, but you have to apply it right here where we're going into within that salt, man. All right, because the Lord said in Leviticus 2:13, it says that neither shalt thou suffer the salt of the covenant of thy God to be lacking from thy meat offering or wanting. All right. So when you read this here, that requirement for that sacrifice had to be doused in salt. Okay? And that was a requirement back then. So how much more do we have to apply it for ourselves, man?
That's right.
Okay, you got something you was gonna say?
Yeah, I was just because it made me think about when you were going into you were speaking about Yahushua in that verse. It's not what goes into a man's mouth, but what comes out that's unclean, but what goes what comes out is
That's
unclean.
right. That's right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's all about the giving the Most High 1,000% with your sacrifice.
That's right. That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
And make sure it's a clean, profitable offering up to the Most High. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And not no whack ass offering. You know.
That's right, man. Beautifully put, brother. Could you read that in Mark again, starting at around going into the salt? Because now we understand. Now we understand more that sacrifice had to be covered in salt.
That's right.
All right. So what is Yahushua likening the salt to today, with us being that sacrifice? Go ahead.
Come. This is back in Mark chapter 9, verse 49.
Pay attention to what Yahushua is saying right here.
For everyone shall be salted with fire.
Everyone shall be salted with fire. Okay? Just like how you had to be heavily covered in salt, the sacrifice had to be heavily covered in salt back then. Our salt today is fire. Okay? So now you reflect back on whatever things that you have going on.
Yeah.
All right? Whether it's in your head, whether it's in your flesh. Certain times you cry into the Lord and you ask, why, Lord? Certain times you complain unto the Lord as the scriptures say. Like Yahushua, when he was in the Garden of Gethsemane, what did he say? He complained to the Lord and asked if it be his will that he take this cup away from him.
That's right.
All right? And then the Lord didn't answer because it wasn't his will.
That's right.
So there's certain things that we go through that we might want taken away, but that might not be the will of the Heavenly Father. Certain brothers have pain that they go through in their body, pain that they go through in their head, pain they go through in their flesh, pain they go through with their significant others, whatever the case is, and you wonder why the Lord ain't took it away.
That's right.
All right? Because that pain that you go through, that fire that you feel, is the salt that the Lord requires. All right? And he says that salt ain't going to be lacking, man. All right? So what you look at in your flesh is pain, and it hurts. We understand the Lord ain't going to put you nothing that you can't bear.
That's right.
But you have to, we have to think of it on a level of the Heavenly Father. What we're going through is acceptable unto him. That's a seasoned, savory meat offering that's being given up unto him. It might not feel good looking at it in the flesh when you got your certain demons that mess with you, whatever the case is.
Exactly.
But from the Lord's point of view, he's like, that's acceptable.
That's right.
Can you read that again in Mark?
Come. And I got one for you after this.
Okay, come.
This is back in Mark chapter 9, verse 49. For everyone shall be salted with fire, and every sacrifice shall be salted with salt.
So Yahushua is saying every sacrifice shall be salted with fire, like every sacrifice shall be salted with salt. And what was Yahushua alluding to? Leviticus 2.
Yep.
Going into the law. Because best believe Yahushua knew the law of sacrifice.
That's right.
All right, because Yahushua represents the living embodiment of the law.
That's right.
All right. And we understand that the law was just a physical prelude of spiritual things that were to come later on.
That's right.
All right. The law was a shadow of things to come, as you read about it in the book of Hebrews.
That's right, brother.
Okay. So that was a prelude or an example of what's to come. So that salt being heavily doused with salt back then in the ancient world, best believe it was a mere example of what we're going through today on how we have to be sacrificed, we have to be salted with fire.
That's right.
All right. And that's the salt for us, man.
That's right.
All right. And that's heavily required. He says, neither shall the salt be lacking, man.
Yeah.
So if the salt wasn't lacking on an ancient sacrifice, best believe that fire isn't going to be lacking with us.
That's right.
Because again, that's an acceptable offering up unto the Lord.
That's right.
Okay? There should be more to that.
Come. This is verse 50. Salt is good, but if the salt have lost its salt, his saltness.
No, go ahead.
Salaki. Wherewith will ye season it?
Hold on. So now it's saying salt is good, and if the salt has lost its savoriness or its saltness, where is it good?
That's right. So
there's certain times we ask the Lord to take particular fires away from us.
That's right.
Take things away from us. But hey, we might not know what we're asking.
That's right, brother.
You know? Because if that ends up getting taken from you, that could cause you to be bland. That's less fire getting put on you.
Yep.
And none of us like uncooked food. You know, when you cook food, man, you know, we don't want all that red meat in our food,
That's
man.
Right.
We want to make sure it's seasoned good.
That's right.
All right. And we want to make sure that it's cooked all the way through.
That's right, brother.
All right. So how much more do you got to apply with the Lord?
That's right.
All right. So if the salt lost its savoriness, which means to be lacking, when you go into the law, if that sacrifice is lacking salt, it's not accepted by the Lord.
That's right.
So how much more do we have to apply this in our lives if we lack that fire?
That's right.
Yahshua did that lesson going into you need a contrite spirit in order to grow.
That's right.
All right. Matter of fact, you got a precept too, right?
I was going to get.
Okay.
This is Hebrews chapter 11, verse 17. By faith, Abraham, when he was tried, offered up Isaac, and that he had received the promises, offered up his only begotten son. And that makes perfect sense. He was tried in the faith, and so we got to be tried in the faith.
That's right.
Yeah. So when you're offering up, you're going to be tried.
That's right.
You know, like the brother saying, you know that fire is equated to what? Being tried.
Mm-hmm.
That fire is the salt that the brother's going into, and then how you gonna receive that? How you gonna maneuver through your sacrifice, your presentation of a sacrifice.
Right.
You know?
That's right. I got this right here. Did you have more on that?
Oh, no, brother.
This is Psalms chapter 51, verse 16. It says, matter of fact, I'm going to start at verse 15. Mm-hmm. It says, O Lord, open thou my lips. My mouth shall show forth thy praise. Mm-hmm. For thou desirest not sacrifice, else would I give it. Thou delightest not in burnt offering. The sacrifices of the Most High are a broken spirit, a broken and contrite heart. Oh God, thou wilt not despise. All right. So once you go through that contriteness or that state of brokenness or that state of humility, like Apostle Gabar likes to go into, being humbled, all right, the Lord is going to humble us in certain situations that are here. And that humiliation period you go through is likened unto that fire that we have to go through in order to be received of the Lord. Right. And that fire that we go through is likened to that salt that cannot be lacking when you go into what it says in Mark 5 and also the law. Okay? That can't be lacking, man. All right? So we're going to go through certain situations, and this time we ask why, Lord. Tazamah did a lesson. The priest Tazamah in our camp did a lesson about a week ago that says what? Don't ask why me, ask try me. Yeah. Okay? So the more that things that we go through, and they might suck, they might seem unbearable when you look at it from a fleshly, carnal standpoint. Right. But once you look at it spiritually, we must look at it spiritually before we look at it carnally. And we have to look at it from the point of view from the Lord, that this is what the Lord requires for us to be accepted, man. That's right. All right? It's required. And it might not feel good neither. Okay? It don't feel good. This shit sucks. That's right. And we all can relate because we all have things that we go through. Our particular trials and tribulation that we go through, man. That's right. All right. But that's the particular seasoning that needs to get put on there. That's right. I was talking to the priest Bon Sapat last night. You know, when certain foods taste better with more seasoning, certain foods taste, I don't want to say better, but they have their own glories to them the way they're seasoned. Yeah. All right. With red meats, you might want to season them a little more heavier than other meats, so that can penetrate. All right, and whatever dish that you might be, whatever sacrifice that you might be presented, the Lord is going to give you a particular saltiness.
That's right,
all right, He might not give you too much salt, because certain food don't taste good with too much salt.
That's right.
Certain food tastes great with a lot more salt.
That's right.
You know, and that's like it to every single last one of us.
That's right.
Okay, did you have any precepts or anything?
No.
Okay, I was going to pull this up in the book of Ezekiel, the 43rd chapter.
Okay.
All right, and when you read the book of Ezekiel, Ezekiel goes into a lot of priestly duties, because Ezekiel was actually a priest.
That's right.
Okay, he was a priest from the Lord. Okay, I believe it's in Ezekiel 43. Let's see here. Yeah, this is it. This is the book of Ezekiel, chapter 43, and I'm going to start at verse 19. All right, and it says, "Thou shalt give to the priests, the Levites, that be the seeds of Zadok, which approach unto me, to minister unto me, saith the Lord Yahweh, a young bullock for a sin offering. And thou shalt take up the blood thereof, and put it on the four horns of it, and the four corners of the settle, and upon the border round about. Thus thou shalt cleanse and purge it." All right, so remember back in the ancient world, all right, you had the altar, which had those four horns at the end of it, all right, kind of look like a little rook, like for brothers that play chess. You know what I'm saying? You have one of the pieces that's called a rook. Okay, but this rook was one that had, certain chessboards have rooks that have like four pieces at the end, certain of them are round at the top, you know, which a rook ultimately represents a garrison.
That's right.
But I'm just going into the look of it, you know, so brothers can understand what the altar looked like. You know what I'm saying? So it had those four corners, and you would douse the four corners with that blood. Okay, and then it says, "And thou shalt take the blood." I'm sorry, verse 21. "Thou shalt take the bullock also of the sin offering, and he shall burn it in the appointed place of the house without the sanctuary. And on the second day, thou shalt offer a kid of goats without blemish for a sin offering, and they shall cleanse the altar, and they did cleanse it with the bullock. When thou hast made an end of cleansing it, thou shalt offer a young bullock without blemish, and a ram out of the flock without blemish. And thou shalt offer them before the Lord, and the priest shall cast salt upon them." All right, so Ezekiel's alluding to the law. When it comes to this young bullock, when it comes to this young goat, all right, you have to cast salt upon them. But he goes in more deeper detail when you continue to read. It says, "And they shall offer them for a burnt offering unto the Lord. 7 days shalt thou prepare every day a goat for a sin offering."
That's right.
And what does 7 represent? It represents completion. Okay, but when you go back then, before you offered that animal on the altar to be sacrificed, you had to prepare it for 7 days. All right, so when you place that salt upon that meat after you slay it, you prepare it a certain way, you have to place that salt upon that upon it. All right, now for the brothers that are into grilling and cooking, you know, that's one of my passions. I love cooking, you know. But when you go into like a particular meats that you want to grill, you have a particular way of doing it called dry brinding. All right, and when you go into the process of dry brinding, let's say for example you have a brisket. Okay, you want to make sure that a few days before you put that brisket on the grill to smoke, you dry grind it. And what you do is you get like, you know, that thick salt, that thick sea salt, you know, and you put it on there because you don't want to use that powder, because that salt, the small salt is very strong. It'll penetrate the meat. You know what I'm saying? So you can over season it and do it like that. So to prevent over seasoning it, you use that thicker salt and you sprinkle that on the brisket to a point where it looks like, you know what I'm saying, it's thick rock salt on the brisket. And what you do is you place that brisket or whatever in the fridge for a day or a few days. And once you take it back out the fridge, you don't see that thick salt no more, because what it's done is it's penetrated inside the meat. All right, and that saltiness had went down into the meat. All right, so here the priest had did this and they let it sit for 7 days. Because that salt had to get up in the meat and it had to penetrate it. And we read earlier in the book of Mark, the 5th chapter, that the salt is the fire. All right, so we go through this particular moment of being penetrated by that fire, and it represents completion at the end of the day. 7 days. So the Lord is really seasoning us right now, man. He's heavily seasoning us with salt, which is likened unto that fire, so we will be that acceptable, that beautiful, wonderfully smelling, wonderfully tasting sacrifice unto the Lord, man. Right. Just as Yahushua represent that wonderful, unblemished, tasteful lamb. All right? And when you look at it outwardly, the Lord rathers an eye being plucked out, a hand being plucked out, you know, which outwardly it looks like it looks blemished, but inwardly we represent those lambs that are unblemished when we do these things.
That's right.
All right, and going through that fire, man, you might, yeah, you're being purged. When it comes from the outward look, Salaki, bro, the outward look of certain people, they look at us and they say, look at these guys. They the men of the Lord. They got these, bald heads.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Patches in their beard.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Garments wrinkled.
And the weakest argument is Nike's on.
Yeah.
Look, man, we in a different time. You know, some brothers do got sandals, but we on the battlefield. Brothers gonna have on Nikes. Brothers gonna have on ACG boots.
Right.
Brothers gonna have on felines, man.
Right.
Point blank.
Point blank.
Yeah.
Mixed cloths.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But it's inwardly was being refined, man.
That's right, brother.
You know, you got a precept.
Come on, brother. This is Job 6:6. Can that which is unsavory be eaten without salt?
You got it, brother.
I mean, bro, go when Jake just think about your personal experience or just being with a brother, y'all brothers out eating, or just a family member, it could be a brother's wife or children. Go out to eat breakfast, man, and see the reaction of having unsalted meat, man.
Right.
It's like, ugh. You know what I'm saying? Especially kids, because so like the children, Israelite children, man, they're blunt, they're honest.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So they got that level of honesty with no what they say, with no chill.
Yeah.
Like, ew, it's nasty.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care if grandma cooked it, if mom cooked it. They're like, ew, it has no seasoning, daddy.
Right.
Or uncle, it has no seasoning.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And that's what that's clearly stated.
That's
you know
right.
what I'm saying? Like,
that's right.
I continue to read.
Yeah, Baba Kashar.
Oh, did you have something to say?
You got it, brother.
Okay. This is back in verse 6. Or is there any taste in the white of an egg?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what do you need? You need to season that stuff, man.
Yeah.
If you want like an egg white omelet, best believe you got to put some salt up in that thing, man.
That's right.
Because it don't taste like nothing.
That's right.
You know?
Yeah. And what does Jake do if they find out somebody like because some people can be like very considerate because they don't know one's health.
Mm-hmm.
So like, well, I ain't gonna put too much salt because I don't, you know what I'm saying. But if somebody who's fair and decent in health, someone who realizes ain't no salt or pepper on them eggs, what Jake do? They grab that salt and pepper, and they also grab that salsa or Tabasco, man.
I don't know. We down south, bro. They might not do that.
Oh yeah, well Salaki. They might not.
When I was in Ohio, we ain't do that.
Yeah,
I was like, hey, people putting salsa in their eggs.
Yeah. Salaki.
I know what you mean,
yeah, because down here is what? It's a lot of the northern tribes.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So a lot
Jake with the comic board. Someone probably like, huh?
That'd be good, brother. A lot of the Issacharites, they'll do that. A lot of Gad, a lot of Judites, the Benjamin, and the Levites that I know, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're gonna put some hot sauce on there, man.
Mm-hmm.
If it's found, it's not seasoned.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, that's a great substitute. That hot sauce, boy. Was there more on that one?
No, that was it on that.
I'm gonna finish this up in Ezekiel, and we can end it off when you are the salt of the earth.
Oh,
In Matthew. Yeah. This is back going on that 7 days in Ezekiel 43 and 26. It says 7 days shall they purge the altar and purify it, and they shall consecrate themselves. And when these days are expired, it shall be that upon the 8th day, and so forward, the priest shall make you burnt offerings upon the altar, and your peace offerings, and I will accept it, said the Lord Yahweh. All right, so that's the 7 day period. You prepare the sacrifice, and part of preparing it is putting that salt on it.
That's right.
Letting that salt rest on it and settle so that meat will be penetrated with that salt and season.
That's right.
And then on the 8th day, all right, which represents number 8, pretty much represents infinity or new beginnings.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? Because you got 7, which is completion, and then that cycle of that 8, which means a fresh restart. That's when the Lord accepts it. Right. So the things that we go through, man, you can liken that to the 7 day period of being salted, fire, and then the time that we receive the kingdom, when the Lord puts those crowns over our head, right. When he says, like the Lord told Yahushua, this is my beloved son in whom I am well pleased, he's going to say it to us as well when he places those crowns on us, man.
That's right.
And that's when we're ultimately going to be accepted.
That's right.
All right. So this took me to realize after reading this that we have certain things that we go through, particular fires that we go through, and there's certain things that you might want the Lord to take away from you.
That's right.
Like Yahushua wanted that cup to be taken away from him.
That's right.
But if Yahushua would have had that cup taken away from him, the nation of Israel wouldn't have been saved.
That's right.
You know, so you look at the things that you're going through, all right, and brothers look at it. The brothers look at the things that we're going through, you know, and it's admirable to see that you're still fighting, man.
That's right.
Hey, that's why Paul said, I endure all things for who? The elect's sake, man.
That's right.
You know, so, hey, as Yahushua was a sacrifice for the elect, we represent smaller versions of those sacrifices, not only for ourselves, but for those as well.
That's right.
You know, and your sacrifice could be something that can build somebody else up, you know, so they can receive salvation, man. They can look upon you and see like, man, they going through it. What I'm going through can't compare.
That's right.
So I'm going to go through it as well.
That's right, brother.
You know, you got that in Matthew?
Yeah, I sure do, brother.
Okay.
This is Matthew chapter 5, verse 13. Ye are the salt of the earth. But if the salt have lost his Savior, wherewith shall it be salted?
And that's a direct precept to Mark the 5th chapter.
That's right.
All right. He says, we are the salt of the earth, man.
Also, the 9th chapter.
Oh, the 9th chapter. Salakia. Not Mark 5, Mark 9. The water, brother. You know, but going into that, man, it's saying we are the salt of the earth. These people that you see out here ain't salted, man. You know, that's why the Lord gonna burn their ass up when the missiles come. All right?
Right.
But he's putting us through the fire right now spiritually so we can be that perfect savor unto the Lord.
That's
and
right.
how do we offer up our savor? Through the prayer of our lips. That's why King David said in Psalms 51, before he goes into that contrite spirit, he says, through my lips I will utter praise.
That's right.
You know, and that praise that we utter unto the Lord while we're going through that fire is being accepted, man. That's right. Because we're still able to go through it, still able to push as we go through it, man. That's right. All right, we being seasoned with salt. That's we're right. likened to the salt of the earth. That's right. Okay? You got?
Okay. Back in verse 13. It is thenceforth good for nothing, but to be cast out and to be trodden under foot of men.
Yeah, and that was actually an ancient way of, you know, pretty much if you had old salt, pretty much old salt that people could have messed with, that, you know, throughout time, you have, I don't want to say oxidation because that happens with a lot of metals, but salt can go bad if it's in the wrong conditions. And that salt that does go bad, you don't want to use it on your meat, but usually you throw it to the side. And like, you know, you throw it on the roads, and that's where like travelers and all that, they trample over it when they ride and everything. And he was using that ancient custom going into that, man. But we want to make sure that we're salted with the right salt, which is the fire. That's right. All right, and we're able to endure through it, man.
That's right, brother.
Okay. So did you have any closing points?
No, man, you put it perfect, brother.
Con. Hey, man, so just want to end it off on this. Right. Whatever you're going through in your life, just know that it's not to beat you up or it's because the Lord ain't dealing with you, man. He's seasoning you up so you can be ready.
It's to build you up.
It's building you up, man. Right. He's letting that salt penetrate deep within them sinews, man.
That's right.
All right. So don't think of it as that. And I had to tell myself that doing some meditating on it yesterday about certain things that I go through, man. Hey, these things are acceptable unto the Heavenly Father. And certain things that we go through might be the only way for you to be accepted truly by the Lord.
That's right, brother.
You know? So I'm going to end it off on that. We're going to end it off on that.
That's right.
Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakakodash. Double honors to our apostles and our elders, a great millstone that rule well. Peace and blessings and much salutation to you, elect Dakyam, across the four winds of this earth, kicking this word of sincerity and in truth. Shalom.
Shalom.
I'm going to check out some of these precepts. Yeah, brothers is lighting the comment board up with them precepts, boy. Oh, that's a spirit. Yasalama posted that Ezekiel 43 as well. Yeah, there we go. He brought that Job 6:6 out too. Sirach 2:5. Kahan Allah GMS GMS Hawaii. Kahan Shalom, my brother. Shalom, brother.
Shalom.
It says for gold. Yahweh Sprekatah. It says for gold is tried in the fire and acceptable men in the furnace of adversity. That's right. That's right. You know, Romans 12:1. Yeah, Micah Allah. Shalom, brother. Shalom, my brother.
My man.
Yeah.
Shalom, Mak.
Yahweh Shemi outside Brakatah. Khan, yeah. Hey, Shalom, brothers.